Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Do you ever wonder when Spider-Man goes to the bathroom if the toilet paper sticks to his fingers?
Do you ever wonder why Superman wears his underwear outside of his pants?
My name is Imran.
My name is Anthony.
He's the Jock!
And he's the Nerd.
And we're your hosts for the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we sometimes try to attempt to answer these questions.
This is a full spoiler podcast, and we swear a lot.
Check it out for awesome geek news, interviews, and comic book reviews. Visit jockandnerd.com. We are your superhero TV, movies, and comic book culture curators.
Boom.
Jockandnerd.com. Jock and Nerd!
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast. And or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Well, welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. My name is Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, we have Brian and Heno. Hey, guys.
Hola.
Sup, y'all?
Sup, yo?
I need to learn to mix mine up a little bit. I think I'm starting to sound too generic.
Nah, because see, I do the same thing on Salty Language. Like, every intro is the same, essentially, except for the episode number. Like, the one we just recorded was different because we hit our 8-year anniversary. Because it was August 2nd that we posted our first episode, and August 4th was when we posted the last episode. So, and I switched it up a little bit, and it was so awkward. Like, when I was saying it, it felt so wrong.
So yeah, hey,
I love it.
yeah.
All right, note to self: don't mix it
Yeah.
up.
But I
Keep
do
it
the
right.
same thing every time so that it's easy to, so I basically, so there's less chance I flub that part up because I know I'm going to flub plenty up going forward. I just try to get that clean intro
And
at least.
Remember, people fear change. They fear it.
Yep.
Yes. Well, it's just one of those things that like you said. It's comfortable. It's
Yeah.
easy. And it's nice and smooth. I've got it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason that a
Go
lot
with
of
it.
shows, if there's any sort of an intro, that it's basically the same one every time. It's for the same reason. It just, makes it much simpler for the host and,
Like a cozy pair of slippers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it becomes kind of your brand.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. It is too, because if you think about other podcasts, you can probably almost do, like, for the people we know and stuff, I could probably do various cadence, and you could tell me what podcast it is, right? So
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
It is.
Yep. It's why every once in a while I'll still slip into, like, when Tony and I are talking, and I'll, like, when we're going to start, I'll pretend like I'm going to start, and I'll do Rambo's intro from A Little Punch Drunk. When he used to do it, it's time to crack open a cold one, and I would just laugh because I just loved it because it's so him and his cadence that if anyone else did that, it'd just be like, no, this isn't right.
Feels weird.
One of the people in my DM rooms mentioned to me that, you say nice an awful lot.
I do too. Yeah.
And I just started laughing. I'm like, I know I do.
Mm.
So
Nice.
whenever I type it, he's like, because he listens to the podcast, and when he sees me type nice in the room,
Mhm.
he's like, I can hear your voice.
Here's your voice saying nice. I'm going to say nice all night tonight.
That'd be-
Nice, right? Nice.
I may be to blame for that, Jen, because nice has been something that I've said I say it a lot, and I have for so long, because there's so many times someone says something to you, and you don't want to be like, okay, because that sounds so, like, dismissive. So I use nice a lot of times, even though I realize after a while, like you were saying, it's like, wow, I say this like a lot. So, yeah.
Just switch to bitchin'.
That's a good one. Because I use nice, cool, and awesome way too much.
I use
you
awesome
gotta
too
throw in
much
some
too.
Bitchin' now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
I
rad or
use
something.
bitchin'.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Right. Gnarly. Yeah.
Bitchin'.
Start bringing all those terms back. Yeah. Rad.
I'm loving it.
Actually, I never stopped
I-
using rad. I still like rad, so I don't care.
I had a tweet thread that words that need to be brought back that got over 700 likes and like 300 comments or something crazy like that.
Brag, brag, brag.
Yeah, I know. No, it was one of
Next
those.
thing you know, she's going to start dropping names.
I know, right?
Get the broom!
Mark Hoppus retweeted it. Yeah.
Jen's dropping names again.
It's not the point, folks. You know better.
Well, clearly it was, or he wouldn't have mentioned it.
No, I mentioned it because it was so cool to see how many
Oh,
people
right,
were
right.
trying to bring back all the words.
Yeah, right. Mhm. You know what's funny to me is when I look through some of that, there's a lot of those words that it's funny how our perspectives influence that, because there's a lot of words in there that I'm like, no, I know people who say that and that and that, but there's other words where it's like, I haven't even really heard this term, or wow, that's whatever, so it's kind of funny to me to see, everyone's kind of range of word use.
I agree. And some of it seemed to be regional,
Yeah.
and some of it seemed to be stuff that needs to be left behind.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Some of it you're like, whoa, no.
Yeah.
It was retired for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, hey, here's a block button. Yeah. Time for Thor to wield the block hammer. I miss that when Tony used to do that stuff, man. I used to love that. When we had like a public room or whatever, and he would do that because people would just be, crossing the line, and next thing you know, he's sending him a gif of Thor, talking about the block hammer or
Nice.
sending them to Block Island, whatever. It was good fun.
Well, I guess we should get this show on the road, I guess. So, with that, who wants to start us off?
Who wants to hear about my colonoscopy?
Oh man, do I? Did everything come out okay?
No, actually it didn't.
Oh, that's what?
Oh, no.
I ended up in the hospital.
Oh shit. Sorry.
Hello.
Not because anything bad happened.
Yeah.
So, I was not in a good mood Thursday morning, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's no coffee. I got up at 8. I just had to wait. I just had to get up there. I'm in the waiting room. The front desk lady's like, "So how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm miserable." And the doctor in the background's like, "That's not what I wanted to hear." I could just hear him yelling.
Yeah.
Like, "You're supposed to say you're awesome and excited for this." And I'm like, "No, I'm not.
Like, I want to get this over.
I want to eat.
Yeah.
I just want to eat." Yeah. So they get me in there, and the prep nurse was awesome, and we were talking about all that. She has dairy allergies like I do, and so I was sharing some food stuff, and she was sharing stuff. And the funniest thing she said is, I found this sugar-free green Jell-O, and I'm like, I found that too. It was like the best thing in the world. It saved my life on Wednesday night because at least it was something that was semi-edible.
Oh, right.
Like I was actually eating something, and I wasn't just drinking. And I looked at it in the store. It was the only thing that wasn't red because you can't have any red.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I was
right.
like, and I'm like, sugar-free. I'm like, all right. And I brought it home, and I really liked it. She's like, "Do you have any left?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." She's like, "Try it when you get back today. It's the most disgusting thing you've ever had in your life, but you were so hungry." And I was like, "Really?" So I got home and I tried it. I'm like, "Oh, that's nasty. Oh, it's so like artificially sweetened."
Oh my goodness.
But it was the best. When I was feeding the dogs on Wednesday night, I was just like, this is how people eat dog food. It smelled so good to me.
That's
so
understandable
hungry.
though. Yeah.
What happened is,
Yeah.
it was terrible. So he lays me on my side. They got the IV in, and she said you did a great job hydrating. That was easy to find a vein. Blah blah blah. He comes in and he's I like that he's got that sense of humor, but he's got that confidence, and he kind of even gave me a little like grip on the shoulder as I'm lying there.
Yeah.
Happy. And it was just nice. It was like a little bit of a personal touch, and I appreciated it. And then he walks over and he just picks up the syringe, sticks one into the IV, pushes the whole thing in, grabs the next one, pushes the whole thing in. Okay, roll on your side. I roll on my side. The next thing you know, I wake up, it's 11:15. I never even felt high.
Yeah.
I just went to sleep. Because I got nothing in my bloodstream.
Oh, right,
I'm
yeah.
like, there's no food. It was just boom, I'm out.
Right.
So I come to at 11:15. I'm lying on my back. I'm thinking everything's done, and they walk in. It's like somebody just walks right in, and they probably gave me the sedative at about 9:45 or so, maybe closer to 10, and so we couldn't get all the way through. Skinny guy problems. So evidently we all have about the same amount. Every human being pretty much has the same amount of intestine.
Right.
It doesn't change whether you're bigger or smaller.
Right.
Just the configuration. And because I'm so small, I have tight turns. He literally could not get past he could not even get into my small intestine at all.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so, and I'm full of air from that. So they're like, you need to get down there as fast as possible. Sharon was already there. They'd already called her. I'm literally seeing double as we're driving to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Like I couldn't, I was still, kind of, I didn't feel loopy because now I've got a headache. I haven't eaten in 36 hours.
Yeah.
I'm bloated, and they get me in there and it's like, okay, here comes your barium enema.
Yay.
Oh.
Yay. So now, I could feel it. It was pushing, and we need to get that barium coated. So flip over, roll over, flip over, roll over. And then they took about 20 x-rays on your side, on your back, on your this, and I'm just not happy.
Oh, I imagine.
And what was cool is the one of the techs in there, he just had the same thing done because they couldn't get the scope through him too.
Yeah.
And he had to do the x-ray. So, and they had three people. So they were helping me move around, and, and I finally stood up, and it was like, we're done. And everyone I'm not in a good mood. And I kept it to myself. I just tried to cooperate. I tried to allow. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that my character defect at that moment did not come out as a shortcoming. and I left, and I got in the car, and we went straight down to Shorty's, and I'm a regular there, so the one of the waitresses there was just like, "Are you okay?" Because evidently I just looked like death warmed over. Like I was pale. I just was withdrawn. I'm just like, I need coffee. I need a freaking Sprite or 7-Up, and I need pancakes, and I want them now. Like, do you want to wait for their order? No.
Nope.
I want it delivered right now.
No. Yeah. Like, if you've got any that just got sent back, go ahead and throw them this way.
Just bring it right over.
I don't even care.
Just bring them right over. I don't care.
If it's in the trash, as long as there's not much on it, get it over here.
Yep. And the Sprite was just so just sugar. Then
I'm
I
sure,
pounded
yeah.
the coffee because I was having massive caffeine withdrawals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got through most of the pancakes, and it's like, okay, let's just get this settled. I felt better. Got me home, and I sat on the couch, and then about in the evening I started just eating. And eating and eating. And I was just, eating and eating and eating. But the worst part about it is I still have all that barium inside of me. So that took a couple days of like, wow.
Yeah. That's
terrible.
I've heard that.
It was just weird. Yeah. And then the next day was great. I had a great weekend. I finally got to my house and doing yard work. I trimmed up some things. None of my sprinklers. I had dead spots in my lawn, and I'm like, I know I got coverage issues. So I went to the grocery store. I went to the hardware store, bought a bunch of stuff, and got a lot of sun, got a little sunburn, but not too bad, and did a lot of yard work. And I was like, I want to go to the gym. Nah, don't go to the gym. I just let myself recover. I had a great weekend. It was really nice. I felt accomplished when I went back to work on Sunday. Everything was good, and it was really fun. Except last night, for some reason, I get home from work and Sharon's like, Jack's not jumping on anything. And I'm like, oh, great. And so I call him over. He won't jump on me, but then I see he jumps on a chair. I'm like, okay, that's not it. But he will not come through the dog door. And the dog door is a little bit of a jump for him because where he's coming off of is like a step down.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has to get his paws in there and then jump through. And because it's an insulated door, it's got double side. And like he just has forgotten what to do. And so all he did last night was just paw at the thing. And so it made a noise. And Sharon's dog sitting right now, so I'm the only one in the house. So just all night long, he'd go outside. He wouldn't come back in.
Oh, jeez.
And I was just up. I was like excited. I was in bed at 10 o'clock. Very unusual for me. It's like, I'm going to get a good night's sleep. Oh no, I got dog going bang, bang, bang the whole time. Oh, there's Sharon's home.
Yep.
Everyone on the podcast, say hi.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just kept pawing at the door all night. So when I came home, I was expecting he'd been out all day because he literally would not come through the door no matter what I did. I'd have to hold the flaps up and then he'd come through.
Oh, wow.
And so I got home, and Bogart usually comes in second, but he came in first, and I'm like, we're just hanging out until Jack's got to figure it out. He's got to come in by himself. And it took a long time. He obviously sat there like, I want, so I don't know what's going on with him. Something weird happened. Who knows what it was, but yeah, I ended up with I checked my Fitbit in the morning. I'm like, oh, that's lovely. 4 hours of sleep. Great.
Yeah. Wow.
That's the one thing I don't like about the Fitbit. It tells you actually how much sleep you got.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But then the other really cool thing happened is over the weekend, I got a message. I'd gotten a message. It was a while ago, but I just hadn't seen it. And there was a little bit of Facebook stuff back and forth. But I have a friend of mine that I know I've mentioned on this podcast going back, a couple of years now. And I have a friend in Salt Lake City who has had a real struggle with drugs and addiction. And I'd go over to see. This was the reminder that don't quit until the miracle happens on anybody. At one point, I don't think I'm speaking too far out of school where, her mom contacted me and said that she was in jail and she needed someone to write, just some contact, and so I wrote a letter. Luckily she had gotten out and got a hold of me. And so I'd go visit her, and you just never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because she was trying to get sober or not. And sometimes she would just completely flake on me. I wouldn't see her. And just not just, it wasn't just drugs. It was also just anxiety and mental health stuff and everything that goes with it. But there were times where I was like, okay, I don't need to reach out anymore, but I'm always going to be here. And so I maintained contact to some degree or another. Anytime I was in Salt Lake City, I'd try to stop by, at least throw a text out there, but I stopped having expectations, let's just say.
Right.
I wouldn't set myself up for disappointment. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I would go do my thing. And if things worked out great, if it didn't, it didn't. And most of the time it didn't. However, over the weekend, I got a message, 8 months clean sober.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Nice.
Totally different human. Like, actually, we're chatting. And it's been the greatest thing chatting the last few days because I can tell it's different this time. Like, it is different. And it just reminded me of when the first time I heard that is like, we don't leave our wounded on the field.
Yeah.
There's always this thing like, oh, why don't you just cut them loose? And it's like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We're always there. It doesn't mean that we have to go, sacrificing ourselves or go above and beyond, but to always just to wait until the miracle happens because it's not on my time frame.
Yeah.
It's on another time frame and none of us know when it's going to happen. And I'm so glad that I always I never gave up. I never just said we're done, like that. And just, I was so excited. And 8 months is big for addiction because most drugs, especially drugs that are like anything that's engaging in your brain and taking over your endorphin releases, like meth and heroin and things like that, it can take a year for your brain to start making its own endorphins again. Yeah. And that means you have no feel good center. You've got no pleasure release at all in your brain. Yeah. And so, she was very honest and said that still has nightmares, still has a lot of anxiety and a lot of the, those things, those will get dealt with. But for now, it was just amazing. I just was so happy to hear it. And it really made my weekend. Like I was like, yes, and so I hope it works out and I'm going to, stay in touch and I'm going to see if I can get out to, go see her as soon as possible.
Nice.
Because we've known each other for 30 years now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah.
There were periods obviously decades where we didn't talk to each other, but there was always a letter or something or, and since I've been in Idaho, it's been like this every so often, something, but it's a struggle. She's been through some real difficult times and I'm just happy to see, someone find the light again. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Because you always, it's sad because you get to a point with a lot of people, like you said, it isn't that you necessarily give up on them, but you also can sometimes kind of start steeling yourself toward like, I'm going to get a bad phone call about them or, or a message on whatever that I don't want, because
how many of your family members?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're not alive anymore. They're not here.
Yep.
It's going, the fact, to me, it's a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
With what's going on across the country.
It is. And, fortunately she, hopefully, got herself on the right path before, cause again, with so many of these drugs, it's such a dice roll, any one time can be it.
That could be it. Yeah.
So it could be your first time even, whatever. So I'm very glad. Let's hope. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we all, feel that way. We hope that, continued success for her. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And there's just too many tragic stories, right now, which is why I'm enjoying having some positive news, and just have a little bit of fun today,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As much as I can't stand Kevin Smith, what he said on Twitter about just be creative right now.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
This is why everybody loves you.
It really is. Yeah. That's part
true.
of why. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you on that because Because it's been a heavy, well, couple days if nothing else. But it's. Whew.
Well, I'll go next if you don't mind, Brian.
No, go ahead.
So, my week's been pretty darn good. Work's been nice and steady and stable and all that good jazz. And then this weekend I had a family reunion, which was awesome. It was actually my husband's family, which adds a whole kind of different twist for me because it's a bunch of people I don't know other than from our wedding. So,
Oh, wow.
I mean, I see them like once a year. Can't remember names for nothing.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. Very nice people.
You always got to, you just always pull the, there you are line, or hey, it's you, because you're never wrong. Always pull those. Yeah.
Times.
It's you.
There were there was some cousins that I knew, so knew names and stuff, so that helped and fun stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was good. And then that evening, a friend of mine came over. A friend of ours came over for a big bonfire and some drinks, and stuff. And it was funny because I was expecting to have more of an emotional hangover on Sunday than I actually did, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
So Sunday I felt pretty good, even though I didn't do much. I just kind of did the chores around the house and stuff. But later in the evening, another friend came over and wanted to go to dinner and and then go hang out. And I ended up going, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm like, I actually do feel like, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's a win.
Good.
Yeah, we didn't hang out long, but we just, went out to dinner and then the guys went and they did their thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good with that.
Nice.
So that was
What's that word? Nice.
Yeah,
Yes,
nice. Yep.
Bitchin'.
It was pretty awesome. I was pretty happy with that, and then today was crazy day at work because we're doing a computer upgrade. And yeah, so a system upgrade.
So what?
So
Windows 95? No.
No, for those
Finally moving on from 3.1.
Finally. Hey, we got color monitors.
But for those of you out there who are familiar with SAP, we had our last SAP upgrade. So we finished moving stuff from one system to another system. And there was a shutdown time frame where nothing could get entered for a couple days while they did the switch over. So we have a bunch of backlog that needed to get entered today.
So what did they have you guys do during that time? Because you can't really work, right?
Well, they did it in waves. So we were working on like some other stuff that had already been switched over previously.
Okay.
So it's just a portion of the work that we couldn't work on. So yeah, so today was catch-up day, and so that was fun to kind of manage through that. But but so far so good. And oddly enough, it's really been weird. I've not needed as much sleep as I have in the past. So this is a good thing, but it's also a warning sign.
Yep.
So it's it's one of those things because mania, when you're manic, you don't require much sleep. Yep. Or at least you don't feel like you do. So I am on caution. I am keeping my eye on things and trying to keep in touch with everything that's going on. I'm still getting 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night, which is a good amount, but I normally get 8 to 9. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on things just to make sure that I'm not going into a new mania period.
Right.
So, but for the most part, everything else seems to be going fairly well. Knock on everything. And I am avoiding the news, so which I understand is not the best choice for most of us, for all of us. We need to be informed, but I just can't.
You can be informed and not consumed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I do have a brief understanding of the world that's going on around me and things that are happening around me. So I'm not completely, naive and in the dark.
Living in oblivia.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not quite that bad. I will own up to the fact that I am more oblivious than I should be, but it's kind of self-preservation.
Yeah.
I kind of have to, just because otherwise it just overwhelms me and negative affects my life. So it's a personal choice. I kind of have to.
Yep.
So, but that's what's going on with me. So how about you, Brian? What's going on?
Well, I found out why my bed was all jacked up. And it was that I didn't know when I got it that, cause I've never owned a queen mattress before. So I didn't know you have to have supports underneath it, or basically it breaks the box springs. And that's what happened, is when we looked underneath the box springs, they're broken in at least 3 places. And that explains why the middle of my bed is sinking. Because, simple physics will tell you if you push on the weakest point of something, that's usually where it'll break. So, yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So luckily, it's under warranty. So, I have to get that all sorted out. I have to call back and find out whether they'll deliver or if I have to go out and get it, whichever. But that's, just good to know that they'll at least do that. I talked about this on Salty Language. The part that kind of stinks right now, though, is I just have the mattress on the floor. And although it's comfortable, you can definitely tell you're not sleeping on box springs also,
Feels like college.
Well, for me, it literally does feel like when I was younger, because I used to pull a mattress. Yeah. There were 2 mattresses on the bed that was actually in my room, but I would pull the one out into the living room, and my brother slept on the bed. So it, literally takes me back to when I was a kid, and, it wasn't by choice. It wasn't like I was like, no, this will be awesome. It was, aside from in the summer, because we had an air conditioner that only basically cooled one room, and that was the room I pulled the mattress into. So, but, yeah, it's weird, sleeping that low, especially when if I wake up and I gotta go to the bathroom or something, I can't just spin and get out of bed. I have to literally get up.
Get up.
Yep.
That's funny.
So yeah, which is really weird because, the medicines I'm on, I have to be careful about bending over fast or standing up fast because it alters my blood pressure, or not blood pressure, but I feel dizzy sometimes. So I have to be careful as I'm going from a laying down position to essentially just getting all the way up, because if I do, I might be dizzy and I'm also half asleep, So, there's some adjustments. But, whatever. It's, I will say this though, it is better than sleeping to where every time I'd go to turn, I'd just roll into the pit in the middle basically, which was not very comfortable because the bed was breaking down, So
get in the pit.
So
yeah,
yeah,
you broke it every night. You were in the pit.
Yeah, I was
getting your medal on.
Nice.
Yeah, if only. So yeah, that was that. I really have taken. I got to a point where I was getting super overwhelmed with a lot of the stuff that I've been wanting to put on eBay and some other stuff that I've been trying to get done. And this week, I really was pushing myself to do the, progress, not perfection. I didn't need to get it all done tonight. Just get some of it done, So I was basically okay, 5 to 10 is the number. Try to get 5 to 10 things done, And I've been doing that, and almost every day I've been hitting that number kind of a thing, because I got a lot of just small stuff that I've been trying to put on. So, I've been pretty happy about that because I've been pretty productive as far as that goes. Not as productive as I'd like to be, but it's definitely helped with the feelings of being overwhelmed,
because it's easy to get really overwhelmed, and then just normally my mode or my operating procedure when I'm super overwhelmed is to basically just curl up and do nothing. So the fact that I'm doing anything is, progress. So that's what I'm hanging my hat on, and it's been working pretty well. So I've been happy about that. And yeah, that's about it for me. I haven't done a whole lot this week, outside of that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
That's awesome that you're taking the steps. I mean, that's all it is one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Little movements going in the right direction.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's see. Henno is the one that brought us the article today. Do you want to get us started off?
Yeah, and I think I'll just kind of jump right into this. It's 5. Hold on a second. I had to switch mice, and now I'm on my unfamiliar mouse.
Oh, oddly enough, I had to switch mice too.
Did you?
Yeah, mine was doing a thing where basically every time I'd go to double click something, it would triple click. And it wouldn't hold highlights and all this. I was actually in a Salvation Army and saw a Logitech mouse that was really similar to the one I had for $2. So I grabbed it, and it works like a champ. So
that's awesome.
I lucked out big time on that. Yeah.
I've actually gotten really, really used to the Apple Magic mouse now, which I shunned forever, and now I really dig it. And it just needed to be charged, and I have a trackball that I've never used before. And
wow.
I feel like a complete klutz.
That's a big jump. Yeah. Those things are hard to start weird. Using. Yeah.
Because I usually use the thumb balls. I'm really good with a thumb ball.
Yeah.
But this trackball is something else. So, the topic is 5 things to remember when you feel ashamed of your flaws. And I'm not going to read the intro. I'm just going to get right into the 5 things, because I think they kind of lays out the basics for a chat. And as everyone has flaws. You could meet every human who has ever lived and ever will, and would still not encounter a perfect person. To have a pulse means to have imperfections. Some developed over time, some we're born with. We're all wired for struggle, as Brene Brown wrote, and most a lot like Augustine Burroughs, quote, entirely made of flaws stitched together with good intentions. Burroughs quote. As soon as I started reading, I'm like, I know that. Your specific combination of flaws may seem unique to you, but they're not. The world is full of people who hurt like you, think like you, fear like you, fall like you, and are just as worthy and lovable with all their shortcomings and struggles. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I can see people taking it as you're not unique. And that's not true. Mm-hmm. They're not saying that you're not a unique individual, because everybody has their everything, something that makes them them, that essence, that soul, whatever you want to call it, that it's unique to you and no one else can have. But that being said, you're not alone.
Yeah, and that's there's this two-sided thing with this is you're not alone. You can find someone that you can relate to. Mm-hmm. That has flaws like you, but you'll never get to that you're not alone until you realize that you're not unique.
Does
true. That make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Because that's the thing that happens in recovery. Everybody walks in thinking like their problems are somehow unique.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, so I hate to break it to you, but you're not special.
Nobody's special. I'm not ready to give that up yet.
But there's a purpose for that, and it's just that idea is there are other people here that have gone through the same thing that you're going through, that have been there before, and when you realize that they have fears like you, hurt like you, think like you, now you can make that connection.
Yeah. It also is a good lesson in humility.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people in their circle, like a lot of the times the problems they have are unique, and, a lot of people get caught up in the comparison thing of my hurt is worse than your hurt, or my scenario is worse than your scenario. So if you take a group of people and sit them down to discuss their addiction or whatever the problem ends up being, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, people start to do that. But when you start going, yeah, no, everybody here has that, like, you don't stand out here. You're part of the pond, you're just another fish in the pond, and I think eventually you kind of go, oh, and it gives you humility, but it also, like you said, it also gives you a sense of belonging, that you fit, that you're not alone. So you don't have to fight these fights on your own. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And you roll right into number 2. If someone had been through what you've been through, they'd likely have the same flaws.
Right.
I find this incredibly comforting to consider that a lot of my personality flaws make perfect sense in the context of my history. I may struggle with anxiety and insecurity, but so do most people who've been bullied and abused. I may be a control freak, but that's common among people who felt controlled. My flaws aren't statements about who I am as a person. They're reflections of my path. And many who'd taken the same path would have developed the exact same set of weaknesses and challenges, which means people without my issues aren't better than me. They just struggle differently because they haven't been where I've been. And I like that because it gets back to what you're talking about, Jen, whereas, yes, you are special in that your flaws are about you and your path.
Mm-hmm.
So you still get to have that part of that. But I also I've always liked this idea because there's no better, in my experience, there's no better block to recovery than thinking that you're terminally unique and that nobody can understand me.
That's what I was getting at when I was talking about the lesson in humility. Yeah, is I think you kind of got to get knocked down a little bit of a peg on that one, and then you kind of realize, what's ahead of you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's taking it too far because you have to find that balance. And everything life's about balance, right? So, but you got to find that balance with humility as well as, celebrating yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's celebrating your story.
Yeah.
And your path.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So number 3 is flaws connect us. We often think we need to hide our rough edges as if they guarantee rejection. But the opposite is usually true. Our flaws connect us. They make us relatable and approachable. They give us common ground. Think about the people who you most enjoy being around. Odds are you're at ease around them because they're at ease with themselves in all their imperfect glory. They own their battles and their baggage. They flaunt their quirks like badges of honor, and they know that they have nothing to hide or prove, or at least they act that way. For years, I was uncomfortable and repressed around other people because I was always trying to be who I thought they wanted me to be because I wanted to be liked. It was as if I'd shoved all my quirks and flaws in a box that I then tried to balance on my head as I walked stiff and awkward through the world around me. Unsurprisingly, this backfired because no one could love me when they didn't really know me, and no one could relate to me when I hid all of my depth under a shallow veil of perfection. We connect with the truth of being human, not the lie of being perfect.
Wow.
I so relate to that just because it's the whole idea of any sort of a group recovery therapy, any sort of collective where we relate to others, and as a result we realize that we've already talked about we're not alone, and that I don't have to hide this.
Yeah.
I don't have to, I rejoice in the moments where I'm as awkward as somebody else next to me because we laugh about it.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it when somebody can be as outspoken as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it when they're outspoken and then they feel bad about it and apologize. I say, no, don't. I really appreciate you being outspoken in this moment.
Yeah.
I'd rather know what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because I relate to it, and I relate to also being embarrassed by it.
Right. Yeah.
So, oh wow, did I just open my mouth like that?
Yep. Yeah, I like that too because it's that puts you into, like you said, a place of feeling accepted, belonging. Which helps because as we've talked on here countless times, no matter what it is you're dealing with, isolation does not help. Because being an alcoholic, being by yourself is a terrible idea because that's, that can lead to just, you just drinking yourself, into a coma or something. People with depression and anxiety, being alone, feeds right into the mental illness and stuff, So by feeling that you aren't alone, it can make such a huge difference. It was one of the first things that actually, when I first was connecting on Twitter, it was one of the things that really drew me to people, was that as I was posting about depression, how many people were identifying with it, or they would DM me and be like, hey, I go through the same thing, and just, they weren't like, oh, try smiling, or just dumb things like that. Like, they were just like, because they knew what they needed at that time. So they were able to basically then, give me help me on my path at that point. And like you said, Heno, you feel like, now you're part of a collective or a group that, hey, we're fighting this together. Like you said earlier, like we all kind of feel like, hey, if one of us falls down, a bunch of us are going to message them and be like, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? Type stuff. And that helps so much, just knowing people will be there if you need them. You're less paranoid about the fall, because when you're on your own and you have these days, you can't help but feel really just isolated. And like I said, it just feeds into everything that you don't want to happen.
Yeah, this just reminds me of high school, in that my best friends were the freaks and geeks that were just like me.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of people. I tended to roam all around the school, but a lot of those connections were based on how good you were, how perfect you were.
Yeah.
It was about connections through sports.
Yep.
It was about how good of an athlete, this kind of stuff. That was about, putting your flaws behind you. But my closest friends were the people that I got to share my biggest flaws.
Yeah. Yep. Or at least your vulnerabilities or whatever.
Exactly.
And stuff. Because if nothing else, like me, a lot of the people I bonded with were the ones that got picked on by other people and stuff like you said, a lot of the freaks and geeks that were kind of, like I was friends with, tons of art students and whatnot. That kind of stuff. So, and a lot of us were, like I was friends with people in band and all that, who, like you were saying, got picked on by the people who were the athletes or the popular students because, being in band or in art stuff wasn't as cool. It didn't have the level of prestige, that sports does, because because people put emphasis on things that are meaningless instead of things that actually contribute to society. So.
Yeah. And that's like number 4 here. Flaws make us interesting. And I didn't realize that my friends that I had were interesting. I thought I just got stuck with them, but they were actually interesting. Why? Because they weren't perfect. And there's a paragraph here that says perfection, or the illusion of it, is incredibly boring. It's predictable, one-dimensional, devoid of heart, uniqueness, and charm. It's our idiosyncrasies that draw people to us and make them curious about us, where we've been, what shaped us, what drives us.
See, I think I'm a pretty put together person, or at least I try to be in the when I'm out in public. So I strive for perfection, so I don't show my true colors very often. And it's something that I've been kind of trying to focus on for a little bit now. Is trying to let my guard down and be more authentic, because I can completely relate to what this article is saying, and I know part of the reason that I have trouble connecting on a deeper level with people is because I have a hard time connecting with to a deeper level of me and letting that out.
But I think that's your Twitter persona.
Yeah.
And that's why when you share with me the people that you meet on Twitter, they sound really interesting.
Yep.
Because you obviously let them see sides of you that you may not show to other people out in the quote unquote real world.
Yeah.
And I don't. And that's part of it, is that, and trying to make that connection between who I can be behind the phone and who I am in face to face. It's tough, because I'm I'm very much I can't hurt somebody else. So I don't want to offend. I don't want to hurt someone else. It really bothers me. And I'm very connected to how people feel. So I go over and above the opposite direction to ensure that they don't have any sort of negative or uncomfortable feeling, which is not good because everybody grows and enjoys. Sometimes it's funny to have those uncomfortable moments together.
Yeah, well, what you end up doing there is you're trying to control the situation based on what you think other people are thinking, and it's because I used to do the same thing, and as I got honestly, this podcast and the other podcast have really helped me because I've just been so free and honest on these shows that I got to where now it's different. It's funny because people on Twitter sometimes will be like, "Oh, how different are you in person?" And I'm like, not much, actually. I was like, I really am just the same person. I was like, it's probably dialed up a little bit on the podcast until I get to know you. Once I get to know you, then I tend to dial my personality up because I feel comfortable, But for the most part, it's amazing how I didn't used to do that with people. I was always that guy who just hid in the corner basically until I read the situation and all this now. And I'm still not one to break the ice with people, but I'm also not one to run away from it like I used to. And a lot of that's because of this.
I think a great example is the first time that we met in person.
Yeah.
It's like I could tell you had that a little bit of a, okay, what are we supposed to do now?
Yeah.
You were still you,
yeah.
Because we've talked so much. It's like I feel like I know how I'm supposed to be, but
right.
This is still a new situation. Yeah. So there was that tiny bit, but it was gone so quickly.
Well, do you know what part of it is really for me is in a scenario like that, what's going on in my head is handshake, hug, I'm trying to anticipate what you want / are going to do because
that was literally the moment. Like
when people first meet me, especially ones that are huggers, I'm so awkward most of the time because I'm like, oh, we're doing this, I'm so like Mark Maron in that moment, it's like, oh, we're doing this now.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So it's awkward for me, and, that's why a couple of the people I've met from Twitter, the one woman, when she came here, actually, that was, she laughed about that because she moved toward me to give me a hug and I actually stepped back.
Nice.
And it's That's just funny. I told her I'm just awkward like that. I said it's weird because I don't have a problem with people hugging me. It's not my first it's not my go-to thing. Like, I don't generally initiate that. But if someone hugs me, I'm usually okay with it. But I am awkward at it. And then it's weird because I feel so awkward. But then I have other people that are like, you give such good hugs. And I'm like, all right. Like, the whole time I'm mostly like, is this too long? Is this too long? It's just
overthinking.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's me in a nutshell for sure. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. That's why I said that's exactly what was going on in that moment, though. Was I was trying to figure out what, like, handshake, hug. What are we doing here? Shirts up, belly bump. I mean, I don't. Like.
Cup check. Oh, we're going there.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that would have certainly caught me off guard.
and just so everyone knows, I went for the hug.
Yeah,
smart
and
move.
The cup.
He's a good hugger.
So our number 5 is flaws can make us better people. When we own our flaws, when we accept ourselves in all our imperfection instead of judging ourselves for our weaknesses and struggles, we then develop the capacity to offer the same grace to other people. Conversely, when we judge ourselves harshly, we're likely to judge other people who reflect back to us the things we don't like about ourselves. I know I've been there before. For example, I've seen someone who appeared needy at a time when I felt insecure and insecure about being insecure, and then looked down on them because I'd yet to develop compassion for this part of myself. But that's not the kind of person I want to be. I want to own every part of my darkness and my damage so I can walk through this world with an open heart that understands, accepts, and loves. I want to see myself and everyone I encounter as worn dolls with unraveled stitches and eyes coming loose that I want to hold close nonetheless. Because I believe we're all doing our best and worthy of love even at our worst, largely because I've hurt, healed, and finally accepted those things are true of myself. And if this cracked little heart of mine can hold all that love because it's been broken and mended, then maybe the fractures aren't flaws after all, and maybe yours aren't either. Maybe our brokenness is our beauty, our weakness are our strengths, and our struggles are our gifts.
You know, it's funny. I kind of feel like as we've gone on with this show, a lot of the things, you know, we've talked about on here about the, you know, how a strength can become a weakness, essentially. Or really, it can work the other way, too, to where, you know, what you perceive as a weakness can actually be the strength. Like showing vulnerability.
Assets versus liabilities.
Yeah, you know, showing a vulnerability you might perceive as a weakness, but it might be what attracts some. Like, I don't mean in a predatory sense, but what attracts someone else to you is like, oh wow, they're genuine. They don't have walls up, you know. And I find it kind of interesting how I just kind of like every time I see somebody post something on Twitter about, you know, like how broken they are or whatever, and it's like, you're not broken. Like none of us, I feel like, are broken, you know, and because really it all comes down to a perception of whatever, like how much, you know, how many things are only broken because it's not perceived as normal. You know, there's plenty of us that for years and years you would have just been quirky. You know, you wouldn't have been broken. You were quirky, or it's a little weird, or you know. Now people see it as broken, and it's like, yeah, why wasn't it seen as a flaw before? I mean, it was, but you know what I mean. It was like people wouldn't take you as seriously, but now it's almost seen like people use it as a weapon that they brandish against themselves at times, and it's sad. You know, I mean, I do it. Most of us do it. It's just, you know, I think we need to just stop trying to look at things as our weaknesses, you know, like
I've experienced that lately, is that idea of that where someone just calls themselves broken or who they are, that they perceive as this is a liability, when in reality it is actually an asset. It just depends on, you know, it's easy to call it a liability. It's easy to call ourselves broken and that are what makes us who we are liability when things aren't going right. But on the same side is when things are going, you know, when things are going right, when things are firing on all cylinders, those are the times to say that I'm broken because this is what I'm able to do. It's like it has to work both ways. Because they are. It's that emotion that puts us, that emotion that can connect us with people, but that also breaks our heart. That they're commensurate with each other. The heartbreak is a representation of how much we loved. And that capacity to love is based on, like it said in this article, our capacity to love others is based on our capacity to love ourselves. And if you love big, that means you can love yourself big.
You mean like the movie Big?
It's going to hurt big too.
Sorry.
What's that?
I said like the movie Big.
Yeah, like that big. Like you're a little kid, but you're so big. Which is how we should love anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
Really.
It is. Love like Tom Hanks eating.
Yes. But yeah,
especially when he gets that thing on his tongue that he doesn't want.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
We should love like that too.
Yes. I agree. I think that's definitely like one of the messages I want taken away from this episode is, you know, we always talk on here, well, not always, but we have plenty of times talked on here about choosing your words, you know? And I think it's time to stop saying that you're broken or you're fractured or whatever. Like, yeah, sometimes, like, yes, you can be heartbroken, those kind of things, absolutely. But it's like, you're not broken. You're you.
I'd like to say we're all broken.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, either way. It's that.
I'd say we're all broken.
Yeah. It's that, you know, none of us are going to be perfect. And really, as we've talked on here, and some of the stuff, you know, like this mentioned about perfection. And I read an article the other day about how there seems to be a heavy link between people who seek perfection and suicides. And, it's like all I'm seeing since we've started this podcast is how the chase of perfection is not only a fool's errand, but it's horrible for us. Like, people for the longest time thought it was a driving factor, and maybe for some people it is, but I really think they're the outliers. I don't think that they're the everyday people. And I just don't feel like that's the chase to go after. It's again chasing happy versus, contentment. It's, if, just be content. Like me with the eBay stuff, I'm not getting it all accomplished, but I'm moving toward that goal. So I'm doing exactly what I want to do. I'm just not putting the pressure on myself that it's like, it has to be now, and that's it. Other than that, it's the exact same thing. It all needs to go on. It's all going on. It's just a little slower than maybe I wanted it to go on. That's it. So I think a lot of this stuff we need to start turning be careful of how you word things, and just try, especially when you're regarding yourself, try not to use negativity in regards to yourself. Because if you're telling somebody things about you, don't get me wrong. If you go to an interview and they go, what do you think your greatest weakness is? And you go, none. That's generally not going to turn out well for you. But, it's, but when you're just kind of, referring to yourself generally, is you don't have to point out your flaws to people. Because most of the time they won't notice a lot of the things anyway, so they don't come out as flaws. Yeah. It's like you make food and it's not exactly what you want it to be, but you give it to someone else and like, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever had.
And they love it. Exactly.
Or
That's it.
A song or a piece of art or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, this is horrible. Someone else sees it and they're like, this is it. This is it. Nothing will ever top this. And you're like, yeah.
Because your view of that flaw within your story is not the other person's story.
Right.
And that's what I love about this is that, yes, you can say that you're broken, but you're broken within your own story.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're generally broken.
Right.
It doesn't mean that there's something, that and that it doesn't have another side to it. And it is in this idea, well, I'm broken, so I can't relate to you. No, you're broken because you have some life experience. But that means that you can be relatable.
Right.
Especially if you're willing to share it and to open up to it, because it really is true. Yes, we may be initially drawn to people from a distance by something that we admire about them. But what I really think keeps us around is when we can relate to each other's fears and anxieties and worries.
Well, I think you and I are a good example of that, Heno, because like you mentioned that I learned a lot from you from listening to Angela's awesome podcast, and I heard you talk about things that were kind of your things you had worked on about yourself, and I was still in that place of like at the time. So but then as you and I started to talk, we started realizing that you being an alcoholic and me being or having depression, anxiety, we realized we're, to stay within this context, we're broken, but the way we were broken is actually one of the easiest ways we identified with one another.
That we could relate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
it was.
If it wasn't for that, I'm not saying we couldn't have been friends or anything, but that certainly, made things, the pieces fit easier. Because I'm not going blah, blah, depression and you going, this doesn't make any sense to me. So many times I was like this, and you were like, oh, I get that because I've done this, and this, and it's amazing how those, even being separate things, there's still those parallels that we've definitely, come together over.
And that's also a sign of a path to recovery and growth, is when you start looking for the connections. If you look for the similarities rather than the differences.
Yeah.
The one place where I see people struggle the most is when they are still focused on the differences. And the reason I know this is because typically what happens, and especially in recovery, they show up, they leave. They come back, they leave. They come back, they stick around. They share with us, that before they were looking for all the differences,
Yeah.
but now they're looking for the similarities.
Right. Yeah, because I would imagine a lot of people when they first go into those meetings and stuff, you're looking for every reason you can find to not be there. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
why you don't
belong
belong.
here. Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
terminally unique.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's a great topic.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think
Yeah, I like
we
that.
did a good job, kind of wrapping it up and everything.
Careful.
You guys good?
Careful
Yep,
with your
and
shoulders,
we'll have
everyone.
the link to this in the show notes.
Yep.
And what's interesting is this was written by one of the founders for Tiny Buddha, which we go to quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And evidently the co-producer of the newly launched podcast, Next Creator Up, which helps people overcome their blocks and create what they want to create, which I think I'm going to go check that out.
I think I will too, because, gee, I wonder if that sounds familiar.
That applies a little bit.
Not at all, yeah.
Sounds like an awesome read.
Yeah.
Listen.
Cool. All right, folks. We know what time it is. You know what to do. You want to carry on the conversation. I can talk.
Remember what I was talking about earlier when I was like, I get the opening right because I flubbed the end? There you see?
There we go.
Now you see why?
You don't want to carry on the conversation with us, you know what to do. You can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me at Jen's Crazy Life on Twitter. That's Jen with the G. You can also, if you want to hear more from me, you can hear me on Shake the Sheets. It's a pop culture talk podcast. And you can find that at shakethesheets.com or any other podcast.
Catcher.
Yes, catcher.
That's apparently, that's the
That's the new term.
That's the term.
Podcatcher.
Yeah.
Catcher or podcast.
Yeah, podcatcher.
I love, we sound like, we're trying to sound cool like the kids,
Yeah.
Right? Kids, those wascally kids. All right. Well, how about you, Heno? How can they reach you?
Find me on Twitter at Ida Heno or El Heno. You can find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter, and on Facebook Messenger. And we just released another new Moving the Needle podcast with the covers of The Damned, where we brought in some cover tunes and judged each other.
I love the dichotomy of you and I, like all of our extra podcasts. Like on this one, it's all about, including and being, respective and non-judgmental.
Inclusive, yeah.
And then it's like you're doing that one where you guys are just like, meh, I mean, in a loving fashion, but still, and
Yes,
Yeah.
with cursing.
well, I mean, yeah. And speaking of cursing, my other podcast is Salty Language, which can be found at saltylanguage.com. We can be found on Twitter at salty_language. That show is definitely not safe for work. There's usually naughty no language in it. So be careful where you're listening to it, and who's around and all that kind of stuff. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find this show on Twitter also at The Crazy Life Pod. Where I post when new episodes go up. You can find our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. We are part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And we are also part of the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. Yeah. I don't know why that didn't sound right when I was starting to say it. And of course, you can... If you haven't already subscribed, please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or on Google Podcasts or Google Play, or however it is you find us. Please share with your friends and all that kind of stuff. So we would greatly appreciate it. And, if you need help, please reach out. We know that it's hard to do. But please take that first step and get some help. There's tons of people out there willing to help you. Like Heno talking about groups and stuff. There's tons of that kind of stuff out there for all different types of grief, mental illnesses, alcoholism. Like there's support groups and stuff out there for so much, and it's super easy to find. You just use that powerful computer in your pocket for a minute instead of playing, I don't know what the kids play these days, word munchers, I don't know. And as I go back to like 1985. Nice. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, please reach out and get some help if you need it. And boy, I'll tell you, I've said this before, and I hate that I have to say it again, but it's in light of the heaviness that's gone on in the world and the hatred that's been spread. It's like please try to choose kindness when you can. Try to do something nice for someone else. And if for some reason you're feeling thoughts of hatred, like harming someone else, please reach out to someone else instead. Please don't do what, some of these people have done in this past week. Is please, try to deal with it in a more productive manner and, value the life of other people and stuff out there. But, yeah, be kind to others. And of course, be kind to yourself also.
And with that, go out there and have a great week, everyone. And you be you, boo.